cost of manufacture, which is often very cheap. Today, a patented drug will be maybe 100 or even 1,000 times more expensive than the actual cost of manufacturing. So the cost for users is very low. But you had to spend money coming up with your drug, or doing the research for your drug, or doing the research for your drug. Now what happens is, instead of a patent, you get what I call a remuneration right. So, I mean, the thing is, what it looks like is, it looks like a patent, but it's the right to get paid from this fund. And that right is tied to who uses your drug and how effective your drug is. So for example, we've got 3 new drugs here. Let's suppose that unfortunately this gentleman's drug turns out to not help people get healthier. It doesn't do anything for people with cancer, okay? It's a dud. He then gets no money. He gets no money from the fund, because what you test is how much the drug is used and how effective it was. So you want to distribute money based on kind of the value the innovation generates, right? And let's say your drug is the most effective, and like most people take your drug, but maybe 10% of people take Sophie's drug because they're allergic to your drug or something like that. She'd get 10% of the money maybe, and you get 90% of the money. So this thing would track who was taking the drug and how much health they got better, roughly, and you distribute the monies based on that breakdown. So you still have market signals, but you don't have monopoly, you don't have individual pricing. You don't get this aspect where your drug is very expensive, so people can't afford it. Everyone can get it at the cost of it. We also have this advantage, is that we kind of pay once for the idea. We don't pay again and again. We don't end up with a monopoly in the same way. You can't charge massive amounts for your drug. You still get good money, but you don't get this massive amount. Yeah, so that's how it works. I want to mention something. For example, I met with Tencent on the other day, and companies are doing models a bit like this already. So, who here has heard of Spotify? Has anyone heard of Spotify? Yeah, you've heard of Spotify? And I understand that Tencent even has a pay monthly fee, and you can then watch videos, right? And these models are a bit like that. Consumers pay money into a fund. In this case, it's run by Tencent or Spotify. And then these people are artists. They're like Madonna, or they make movies, right? Let's just think of Spotify. Consumers pay a fixed fee. They no longer buy individual songs. They pay once for a fee. The money goes into a fund, and then it's given out to Madonna or Beyonce. I don't know a famous Chinese pop artist, but like, you know, Beyonce or Madonna or whoever, based on how much they're listened to. So Spotify check how much an artist is listened to each month, and then they hand out the money based on that. But it's this model where the price to users in Spotify, the price for another track is how much? If you've paid your fee for a month, how much does it cost to buy another track? Nothing. The cost when you want to download another song to you is nothing, because you've paid your fixed fee. Now I'm suggesting we can do the same kind of model, but have the state, you need the government or some other group or organization collecting the money. The one problem of having Spotify collect the money is, while they give you free access, once you've paid the fee, they can charge a very high fee. They kind of move the monopoly problem somewhere else, right? But you already see companies doing this, because it's so inefficient to buy music individually. I mean, for example, I don't know, can you get iTunes in China? I don't know whether you can buy songs on iTunes so much, but the old thing was that to buy on iTunes cost $1 to buy a song on iTunes. Now, you can listen to 10,000 songs. You can listen to 10,000 songs, but you don't have $10,000, right? Even though the cost of an additional song for them to give you an additional song is 0, right? So that model where you pay for individual items is going away in favor of pay once into a fund, unlimited access to information, and then giving out the money based on that mechanism of usage and value. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the Amazon Prime. Like you paid once and you
Yes.
got unlimited access to like music, books.
Exactly.
But the problem is it's only one entrepreneur. How can others follow the route?
Right.
Yeah, and also how can the government do the thing if it's an open market?
Right. Well, so, and you just hit on something. So one thing is, companies, it's so inefficient to do this model, right? Because what's inefficient in this model is these people get no value. Not only do they not get the stuff, they don't pay any money either. So if you can include them and pay through this fund, there's much more value generated. Particularly in the real world, and I didn't draw it here, in the real world, there are a lot of these people. There are a few rich people and a lot of people with not so much money. Or they have money, but they don't want that much music, you know? Now, the problem of Amazon or Spotify or WeChat being in the middle and running this fund is they have a lot of power. If they establish a strong market position, they can charge a lot of money here. And the other thing they can do, they can pay artists very little. If you run the dominant platform, you can pay artists and innovators almost nothing. You could say, you've got to be on Spotify. You've got to be on Amazon Video. If you're not on Amazon Video, no one will see you. So what's going on right now is there's a lot of people trying to be a platform, right? Yeah? And what happens in a platform is there are people on two sides, by the way. So just like here, there are creators or innovators and there are consumers. And there's this platform in the middle. The other example is Didi. Didi is a platform. They've got you guys, consumers, and they've got cab drivers. Exactly, right? Now, the rule of platforms is this. It's like you're trying to sell people illegal drugs. You give them to them very cheap at the beginning, right? It's very cheap to get that cocaine, right? And then once they're addicted, once there's nowhere else to go, you raise your prices, right? So what you see in all these platform plays, when they're run by a single company, while they will do a fixed fee pricing model, they eliminate the individual pricing problem, they end up charging lots of money in the middle, right? Now, just pick one famous example of this. We're getting ourselves a little bit into the economics of the digital age. This is also Windows. This is consumers, this is app developers, and this is Windows in the middle. So the thing is with platform economics is this is a natural end state for the digital age, but if it's run by a single company, they exploit consumers and they exploit creators. And so why do we need someone running this who's independent? We need someone like the government or some independent organization that runs these things and regulates them. And remember, like in theory, the government is sort of us in some ways. When I say the government, I mean the state. And so they shouldn't get involved. The government shouldn't get involved in deciding how much money creators get. There should be an automated algorithm, but they should decide how much money goes in the fund. The most obvious example, if we were trying to try this out today, would be medicine. Think of this in China. Today in China, all money that gets spent on medicines, on patented medicines, is basically spent by the government. Because the government, you pay the government for your taxes, the government then either spend money on R&D, or they spend money on hospitals, and the hospitals buy drugs. And today, you basically, through your government, are paying patent holders, for example, in the United States, other places, vast amounts of money. I'll give you one statistic today. There are 30 million people in China. There are 30 million people in China. I'll just go up here. There are 30 million people in China who need a drug from this company. There are 30 million people in China with hepatitis C. Yeah? These guys are selling a drug that costs $80,000 for a course of treatment. $80,000. That's 500,000 renminbi. 500,000 renminbi. Let me just go up here. I don't know if we've got it. Should I have it here? Sorry. I'll just on this one. They charge 500,000 renminbi for a course of treatment for 30 million people in China. That drug costs about 2,000 renminbi to manufacture. 2,000 renminbi to manufacture, 500,000 renminbi to buy for 30 million people in China. Now, probably China will negotiate a bit of a discount, but you'll probably spend 100 or 200,000 renminbi. Now, imagine that China went to this model. China could put money in this fund, you already collect all the money for medicines through government anyway, and start paying innovators based on what drugs got used, and then have open medicines. You could still pay innovators as much money as you do today, you'd pay as much for innovation, but you'd have unlimited access to those drugs in China. It would be a huge win-win. I mean, that's what I want to emphasize to you. Normally, you know, if someone comes along to you and says, like, it's win-win, you can have this and you can have this, you don't believe them. You know, in life, you know, if someone says you can do no work and pass all your exams, you don't believe them, right? It's not true. But I'm saying to you that we can have more access, unlimited access to knowledge and drugs and all this stuff, and pay for as much innovation as we do today. It's like a win-win because of the magic, because of costless copying. I want to stop there. I could talk a lot more about digital economy, but I just want to explain how it's possible and why Amazon or Didi, for that matter, or you know, these drug companies being the only ones back. Oh, keep getting electric shock. If it's run by a single company, there's a monopoly problem again. Even if they get rid of the pricing issue, there's a monopoly problem because they charge a lot to consumers, or they who runs Foxconn is not. Yes.
As there is vast of information on the internet,
You make $1 million.
by the customer, because there is so many information as we cannot to see the most valuable. We just see what was given to us.
Thank you. That's a great question. So just for everyone in the room, there's so much information on the internet, but we don't get always the high quality information put in front of us. Now, has anyone got any thoughts based on the talk today of what we could do about that? Rather than me just answering, does anyone have any thoughts in the room? So one question I've got for you is, what's the major way you discover information on the internet today? Google or Baidu? And I don't know, you don't really use Facebook in the news feed so much, but do you have anything like the news feed? Like WeChat, does it have a news feed now? Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I don't use WeChat as much, but for example, in Europe now, and the United States, many people don't even use Google, they just use their Facebook news feed, right? Now, so, people find information via Google and Facebook. Now, step one, What are Google and Facebook? What are they? Do they use information technology? They do, right? They are online companies, but fundamentally what runs them is software and data. Yeah? Is that everyone agreed on that? Right? In particular, your question is, how does Google, for example, let's just pick Google for a moment. Let's focus on Google. So the core thing that runs search is an algorithm. That's a piece of information. It's a recipe, right? It's a rules, plus a load of data and some other software. Now, is that information open or closed?
Closed.
What do people think? Oh, is Google's algorithm open or closed? Great question. That's a really good question. Let's keep going back to the definition. So, is Google's who thinks open? Google's algorithm is open. Great. It's always good to guess. Who thinks it's closed? Okay, it's pretty mixed. Okay. So, is Google's algorithm available for you to download? Can you go and get the software that runs their search algorithm? No. Payments. There are some papers. You're right, but none of them they're mostly. I'll just tell you something. Google tend to only publish papers about technology they've basically stopped using. They tend to publish a paper once they've stopped using the technology. So, for example, a lot of their work on distributed databases, which is like HDFS, or a lot of that stuff, they only published once they basically moved on to another technology. Right? They don't tend to publish stuff about their latest stuff, and they don't make their entire algorithm open. So no, that's a really good question though. None of Google's algorithms or software are basically open, and their database isn't open. So take a stupid example. You know that you can search on Google Maps or on Baidu for, like, when I came here I searched for a place, to find this building. That means there's a database of the names and addresses of places. That's a really valuable database. Google do not make that database open, right? You would have to pay them or buy it from someone for a lot of money if you wanted a database of addresses in Beijing. It would cost a lot of money, yeah? So Google is entirely basically closed. Now, you asked about quality. So that means couple of questions. So, how does Google make money? Because they spend a lot of money on developing their software. They spend a lot of money. Ads. Now, why do advertisers pay them money? But why do advertisers pay money to Google to get on Google's pages?
Oh, they direct consumers to their website.
Right, exactly. So you have attention, yeah? And your attention is very valuable because your attention is like you decide what you buy, where you live, what jobs you do, like who to vote for. I mean, you know that, for example, in the United States, politicians spend millions of dollars now on Google ads, right? In fact, in many countries, the government, just in the normal course of their business, buy ads from Google to tell citizens about their services. Right. So Google sell your attention to advertisers, right? So let's just go back to the model over here. Here are consumers who use Google. Here are advertisers, and here's Google in the middle. Right. Now, here's the bit I want you to get. Here's the bit I want you to get. And this is really crucial because people think Google's free. Like, Baidu's free. WeChat is free. It's amazing. You get this free product. It's like free. Like, what could be wrong with free? Right? Well, they're selling your attention. And think about a couple of things. You asked, the question the lady asked was high quality search on the internet. Now, I've got a couple of questions. Imagine for a moment that Google or Baidu came up with the perfect search algorithm. They've got these researchers and they come up with the perfect search algorithm for you. Every time you search for a piece of information, you find what you're looking for. Why would you ever click on an ad on Google? Every time you search, the best search result is the organic search result they found for you. It's not the ad, it's the search result their search algorithm has found. Why would you ever, ever, ever click on an ad? You wouldn't. So if Google produced the perfect search algorithm, they'd have no business anymore. Because their business depends on selling your attention to advertisers. As a result, they will intentionally corrupt their algorithm. They will intentionally make sure that their algorithm does not substitute for advertisers' results. In addition, their motivation is not to produce the best algorithm for search, but to produce the algorithm that maximizes profits ultimately. Now, they'll tell you those two things coincide, but I've just given you a proven, logically inarguable reason why Google don't produce the best search algorithm. And think of Facebook. Do Facebook or WeChat want to put in your feed the things that are most relevant for you and most interesting? Like most truly important to you? Or do they want to put things in your feed that will excite you? That will like be pictures of cats. You want to know what a cat looks like, right? Like people, what those guys will put in your search is stuff that will bring you back again and again. Now, going back to the question you asked, how does this relate to open and closed? You want high quality search. That is crucial in the information age. Imagine we had an open model. I know I'm taking a little bit of time here, but this stuff, how do I put it? It's like I was talking to you about environmentalism in 1970. No one's heard of the environment in 1970. No one's heard of the digital economy in the same way, right? Or the open information economy. So think about how an open search algorithm would work, okay? Every month, we'd all have to pay in China, let's say, 1 renminbi or 2 renminbi on your internet bill, right? That money would go in a fund for search algorithms or like information discovery. Every month, anyone in the world, but also in China, could put forward a search algorithm, right? You could be a startup, you could be an established company, and some number of those search algorithms would get used by search providers, right? There'd be companies that just ran search queries, but they wouldn't have the proprietary technology, they wouldn't have the algorithm, they'd just be like a company that manufactures pills, right? I'm trying to make this, these things are a little bit subtle. What I want to explain again, so let's just think of, I'm sorry, this is a bit subtle, but sir, wow, can we turn that down? So this when you think about something, this is also important. Medicines have 2 parts, right? They have a formula, like H2O, and then they have a company that manufactures them into pills. Yeah? If the information is free, is open, try that one. If the information is open, you still need to manufacture the pills, yeah? But it's very cheap. Rather than being like $80,000, it's maybe $100, yeah? It's a lot, it's very cheap to make the pills. Think about search on the internet. Search involves 2 parts. One is an algorithm and data. The other part is data centers. Do people know what I mean like data centers? Like loads of computers in racks? So just like medicines require 2 parts, a formula, and then to actually turn those into a pill, search engines involve algorithms and data, and then they involve a data center to actually answer your query. Yeah? Now, if this part were open, this part would be very competitive, right? You'd have lots of companies that would run data centers, it's like kind of today actually, and this part would be competitive. Now imagine you had open algorithms for search, okay? Because this is for you. Imagine you had open algorithms for search, so I don't want to lose you. Every month, we could find out what search algorithm was used in China. So maybe there were 1 billion queries, and 100, 500 million were done by your company, by your algorithm, you would get half of this fund, right? You'd hand out the money based on who was providing the algorithm.
How can you make sure that the customer use all these algorithms?
Well, so what you'd probably do, you'd take some of the algorithms that were popular, maybe the top 10, and you could randomly offer them to customers and then see. So you'd say, you could generally see over time whether an algorithm produces good results.
But the customer already has the habit to use maybe Google or Baidu.
Yeah. So you need to start white labeling. There's just a standard search service. People just like you don't have to go to lots of different websites. You go to one site, but the algorithm that's used varies.
The question is how to transfer the habit of the customers from using the website to a search engine.
But it's like, that's just, well, one option is you. So look, we'll take an example. Why is Google not very successful in China?
Because the government.
Block it, right. So the government has a lot of power. The reason Baidu even exists, right, in China, and is successful is because the government prevented Google coming here, basically, right? Now, we could have done the same in Europe.
So you would like to use a blocker to make the innovation.
Well, I don't want to use the blocker. What I would say to government is government could start saying to consumers, here's this standard website name. We'll call it search.com, right? Behind the scenes, there's competition to provide algorithms to search.com. Anyone can do it. Search.com itself is run competitively, right? I mean, what's the best example that you can think of here that is...
I understand your model.
You understand the point?
I understand the model. I just because
You don't need the government to run this. The government doesn't need to run this or this. The government doesn't need to run it. But it does need to help people. If you've already got lock into one provider, like Google or Baidu, the government's going to need to do something.
But why the government want to do this?
Well, let's think of a certain question. So there are different motivations. So why did the government in China want to have Baidu rather than Google?
Because they want to control the information on the internet.
No,
That,
I don't think so.
I think that's, just to be clear, I'm not going to get too controversial. I think that might be one part of it. I think another part of it that was actually smart of China was its industrial policy. If my story is correct, in the information economy, there's generally one or two winners, right? Because of this costless copying and infinite reproduction. By protecting Baidu in China, they've allowed Baidu to go from being a small little child to a big adult. And the big adult is now strong enough to fight off Google if it wanted, maybe. Take another example, WeChat. WeChat could now compete with Facebook in China. At the beginning, when WeChat was really small, if Facebook had come in, they'd have probably, they'd have killed WeChat off, right? But that didn't happen. So my suggestion is to governments, there's two arguments. One argument is, ultimately this is more innovative. I've just said to you, if you do the Google model currently and have a monopoly, they won't be as innovative as they should in the long run. They'll be innovative now, maybe, but for the long run, they won't be innovative. I mean, I could go into more detail on this, but it's like, that's the argument. So for governments, if you want more jobs in your country, you want to be more innovative long term, and you want a fairer outcome, then you want to support this kind of model. Because you'll get more jobs in China, you'll get more innovation in China, and you'll get a better outcome for China in also transparency. Right now, Google can change the outcome of elections. There is research evidence that Google, if it wanted, by changing what they have in their search results, could literally alter elections around the world. Now, I don't think Google should have that kind of power. I don't think one company should have that kind of power, driven by monopoly profit. It's just not like, they're not bad guys, but they just shouldn't have that level of power because there's a risk they'll abuse it. So my argument is competition and openness would lead to much more transparency. You could see it. I mean, I ask you one last question. I don't know how much access you guys have to Google in China, but do the query, why are women? Just type into Google the query, why are women? And like the first result on Google is like, why are women bitches? No, like seriously, the first result on Google is like, why are women sluts? Like that is the first result on Google. Like that, and there's no transparency as to why that is. Why is that the first result? If we had an open world, we'd be able to look at the algorithm. Someone might have owned the right to get the money from that algorithm, but anyone could look at it. Anyone could look at it. And that would be good for innovation, it would be good for competition, it would be good for accountability of companies. So that's my argument of why government should want it. Yeah, it's a really good question. One more question over here. Three more questions now. Okay, this is good.
Thank you for your speech. I think it's very wonderful. And here's my question. That in your model, the innovation market fund, in my opinion, is like using the algorithm to decide, put the money, to give the money to who they want.
Yeah.
So it's like, in my opinion, the innovation market fund is like a robot.
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is, how do you feel that let a robot to be the U.S. president instead of Donald Trump? You know, it's a better word that a robot govern a human instead of a company or government to be our leader. So
I don't know how much you have to say. I think.
我用中文就是说一下I use Chinese to yeah. 我刚刚问题就是在老师刚刚这个模型里 ，innovation market fund 基本上就是用一个算法来决定把钱要分配给哪些部门。实际上如果用算法来计算，就有一点类似于使用人工智能或者是机器人来决定你最终资本的流向。那这样的话，思考一下这个权力的分配的话，就是把权力交给机器人，然后让机器人成为美国总统，而不是 Donald Trump 的话。我就想问一下老师对这个看法有怎样的感想？就是让机器人来统治人类，而不是让人类在统治机器人这样。Thank you.
I'm going to try and keep answer this one shorter. The reason this wants to be somewhat automated is you don't want government interfering too much. You don't want government or any other special interest coming in and saying, oh, give all the money to this person and their innovation because they're better. You want to be able to have it be independent. At the same time, you've got to have some human oversight. This wouldn't just always be a robot. There would be human decision makers who would decide what the algorithm was, for example. The other thing I want to emphasize is there'd probably be disputes sometimes over here. For example, maybe Madonna, does everyone know who Madonna is?
Yeah.
Does everyone know who Beyonce is?
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine Madonna and Beyonce are supposed to get money, and Madonna's like, Beyonce, you stole my idea for a song. Like, your song that's really successful is getting all this money from the fund, it's really my song. Now, they need to be able to sue each other and have a dispute. And similarly, there are situations you could think about medicines. Maybe she's come up with a cancer drug, but it's based on her cancer drug. Or, similar things. So there'll be some dispute resolution. So it won't just be a robot deciding on things. What's important really is that this is independent, that you don't have the government coming in and going, you get all the money, or you get all the money. You need this to be independent and trustworthy. That's the crucial point. Whether it's a robot or just a very trustworthy judge, I don't know. There was another question from the lady up there, maybe? You have a question?
My question is how to effectively open and share data while balancing the confidentiality of the data?
Great question. So, something I didn't emphasize maybe enough here.
Sorry. I should translate it.
Yeah, you translate, sure.
所以这个问题就是说，在开放信息下，如何实现成本最有效？如何实现最有效的数据分享，同时又平衡了数据的保密性呢？
So, great question. Thank you, 谢谢你。 I didn't emphasize maybe enough that when I'm talking about open information, I would only be talking about non-confidential information. I'd only be talking about non-personal information. So for example, Google search algorithm does not contain personal information. But I would never be saying that we should open up your health records. Or for example, your WeChat chat. The chat history is personal to you. It's private. I don't think that should become open data to everybody. What I'm talking about is information I would say we call, in other countries, non-personal. So for example, Beyonce's music is not personal because it's given, anyone can buy it. Windows software, anyone can get if they're willing to pay the money. It's not personal information. But for example, in most countries in the world, I'm not allowed to buy your health records. It's illegal for me. Even if I was allowed to pay a lot of money, it's illegal for me to get your personal health record if I don't have special permission. Maybe I'm a researcher, I'm allowed to, but as an ordinary individual company, I can't just buy your health records. So that's a really good question, but the basic answer is when we shouldn't open up personal confidential information. Now, there are different stages of what you can do with personal confidential information, and that's a whole different talk. I do a lot of discussion with people about that, of what you can do with personal information, but I'm not going to talk a lot about it today. The basic answer is we don't open up, as open information, personal confidential records. Does that answer your question? On half.
Thank you for today's wonderful sharing. And I have a question for you. Since you have started Open Knowledge since 2004, it's already more than 10 years past, and you have made some success and progress. And today you are here sharing us this idea of Innovation Market Fund. And I just want to know what's your recent focus and what's your next maybe 5 years plan, or whether some idea and plan.
Wow, okay. We've got another few hours. No. Do you want to say that in Chinese as well?
Yes. 抱歉，那个我刚才问的问题就是说，他的那个 Open Knowledge Foundation 是2004年开始做的，然后到现在已经有12年多了。然后我想问他，今天在跟我们讲这个，这个 fund Innovation Market Fund 的这个 idea， 然后他现在的工作中心，包括之后的大概5年内的一个什么计划？
Well, I'm going to say two things. So first of all, I think I will spend a lot of the rest of my life engaged in some of these issues, because I told you at the beginning, if we think that we're going to be in a digital world where what we make is like software or medicines or music or apps or algorithms, and we are going there, then this question of open and closed will be the fundamental policy choice of the 21st century, because it determines this kind of stuff, right? It determines these graphs. It determines not only politics, but we could be wealthier this way. So I think I'll go on working on this as well as other things. But I want to say, I'm going to talk very briefly then you say about what else interests me. One answer is everything. When I was a small child, I asked questions all the time. Still today. Why is the sky blue? Where do babies come from? Why are some people rich and some people poor? Endless questions. So I'm always curious. But I want to say one thing because I'm here at the Open Minds Club. So I think of two aspects about changing the world. If we want to make a better world, if we want to address climate change, if we want to create a heaven on this planet, right? And we could. There is a chance that in your lifetime, in my lifetime, we will achieve something that hasn't happened based in human history, which is there's enough for everybody to eat. That no one on this planet need go hungry, right? We might even achieve a world where people actually only need to work, in terms of have to work, for 10 or 20 hours in a week. right? Already there are probably tens or hundreds of millions of people on the planet who are that wealthy for whatever reason. Now, bigger than anything to do with the economy will be our minds and our attitude. Right now, many of the most wealthy countries, and even some of the most wealthy people, often just seem to obsess about getting more. How can we have more? More GDP, right? And they don't know why they want more, right? And so, more important than the open knowledge, I mean, that will make a difference. But you can have all the open information you want, but no one will listen to it. Most important of all is open minds. I don't know if you've ever noticed something interesting. Have you ever had an argument with someone else about something? Like, factual even. Like climate change. Or, I don't know, even politics, or what they think of Donald Trump, or anything. People don't change their mind very much. Have you noticed that? People aren't very open-minded. And I'll make a comment here, this is just on a totally different track, which is China has a history, is one of the kind of homelands for Buddhism. Yeah? You know what I mean by Buddhism. Now, I make a comment to you. What happened in 1800, or around the Enlightenment, was that people started to look at the material world and technology systematically and open-mindedly, actually, for the first time. What was the scientific method? The scientific method was constructive skepticism. You know, rather than just looking at what the ancestors had said, you respected what the ancestors had said, but you also looked at the evidence with your own eyes. For example, in Europe, who's heard of Galileo? Galileo was the person who said the Earth went around the sun rather than the sun around the Earth. And he was nearly executed for it. But as a result of that, we've had incredible growth. Right? Because of science, because of technology, we can build buildings like this. We can build cars. We can build information technology because of the open-mindedness. Now, think about how un-open-minded though most human beings are. Right? They don't change their mind. I argue with my father about climate change. My father doesn't think climate change is a problem, often it seems, right? You know, people don't change their minds. And you might want to wonder why that is, right? And I will point something out to you, which is, of the problems humans face, only a small amount actually is scientific. The hardest problems humans face are collective problems, where we have to act together, like climate change, or the Innovation Market Fund. This Innovation Market Fund here, this requires us to act together. If we all act together, do you remember the car that we could buy for 1,000th of a renminbi? We could all do that, but it takes us acting together. Now those problems are not solved by technology or science. They're about humans being different. Now I want to make one combination with Buddhism. So, you know what I mean by consciousness? Yeah, your mind. How does your mind work? No one really knows. I mean, just ask yourself one interesting question. Is there ever a time when you were like, I don't know, has anyone ever been on a diet? You know what I mean by a diet, yeah? Or you wanted to exercise, like you're a guy, you want to be really buff, you know, look good, right? And you're like, okay, there's this chocolate cake, you know what I mean, chakoli, right? Chakoli, yeah, chocolate cake, right? You're like, don't want to eat the chocolate cake, shouldn't eat the chocolate cake, I'm on a diet, eating the chocolate cake, right? Or, I want to go to the gym, I'm going to go running today, oh, I didn't go running. I watch TV instead, right? How does that happen as a human being? How is it that you choose to do things, you want to do them, and then you don't do it? That's a mystery, right?
Yeah.
And it's fundamental. Self-control as a fundamental thing It really varies across human beings. Or collective action problems. Now, this is just the connection. In 1800, or let's call it 1600 to 1800, we discovered the scientific method for the natural world. Right? This was the natural world. Now, about 500 years before Christ, Buddha was around. I've seen some of the temples to Buddha. Now, Buddha was interesting because of all the world's religions, Buddha didn't say, believe in me. Buddha didn't say, I'm right. You know what Buddha said? Buddha said, don't trust anything I say. Buddha actually said that. Buddha said, don't trust what I say, go and test it for yourself. But here's what I have learned through doing my meditation and my enlightenment. And Buddha was the first scientific philosopher, if you like. The first scientific cognitive scientist. Now, he didn't have machines for studying the brain, but he had meditation. And it actually turns out that all our machines are still not as good as meditation at understanding what goes on in your brain. And out of that, he had a bunch of learning about how human beings be in the world, how we exist in the world, right? How, for example, volition arises. How does choice arise in us? Where does it come from? And so you asked me what I'm interested in. The other part of transforming an economy is transforming our being as human beings. I mean, everyone talks about it, but what would it be really like if we really were peaceful? If we stopped fighting each other? If we really loved each other? People have talked about it for thousands of years. You know? And the people, you know what's funny? The people who are like that, they're really happy. Have you ever met, my best friend is a monk. You know, he's really happy. Like, he's so happy. He's a Buddhist monk. Right? Have you noticed a lot of people have a lot of money? They're not often happy. They're like running around trying to get more money. You know? Now, some of them are maybe, but they'd probably be happy whether they had money or not. Now, my offer to you is just this transformation. We've transformed our natural world, our technology, but we need to transform our being. We need to transform our being. Imagine a world where every human being was open-minded. Where every human being just came to a conversation with like, wow, I'm going to be skeptical, I'm not just going to believe anything, but I'm going to listen to what you say. I'm going to listen to what you say for what's great in it. How can we work together? How can we build something? Rather, how can I dominate you? How can I win? Right? And I think we have an opportunity because I think being richer makes it easier. When you're very poor, all you can think about is where's your next meal? Where's the rice? It's very hard to think about transforming your being. People have done. Many monks are not rich, but it's hard. But as you get richer, you can do it. What's unfortunate is as we're getting richer, what we're mainly doing is letting ourselves get addicted to consumption, to video, to TV. You know what? You know the things in your brain that react to cocaine? The reward cycle in your brain that reacts to cocaine is the same thing that reacts to a friend request on WeChat. Someone friended me. Ooh, I get a little hit. When you see adverts, when you see consumerism, it activates the same pathways. If we want to be different, we have this incredible opportunity. And what's even better is we've had 2,500 years of research. Basically, Buddhists and other traditions, particularly Zen Buddhists, have been studying how our brain works for 2,500 years. And they have a lot of advice. And it's really good advice. And it's not religious. It's not religious at all in that sense. It's just practical. And you know what? All the people doing cognitive science today, they're just finding that this stuff is correct. Like, there's more and more evidence that, like, how meditation works, that meditation does work. That, you know, that you can become more content and happier, that you can calm yourself and all these things, and that you can watch how the brain cycles work. So my offer to you is the Open Minds, if you like, the Open Minds Club. True open-mindedness would change the world. It would change the world more than open knowledge. True open-mindedness. But what's tough about it? What's hard? And this is the problem. Technology you can copy. You know, You're a Stone Age person, you see someone using an axe. You make an axe, right? You see someone making a car. You make a car, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work like that with meditation or open-mindedness. I see someone being open-minded, it doesn't mean I'm magically open-minded. You know, it's like exercise, unfortunately. You know, you see someone on TV who's really buff. Oh my God, like big, like really like, I don't know how you say really like fit, like really exercised, yeah? Have you noticed that when you watch them on TV, you don't become fit, yeah? Just because you watch someone being fit doesn't mean that you're fit. And so the problem is that open-mindedness, you need to train. You need to train yourself. And it's hard. And it's hard. I spend some of the rest of my time researching and being interested in.
Awesome.
Excellent. I'm also worried, one last one over there, but I just want to be, people can talk to me after as well, but let's take this last question if we're not running over time. If, you know, I don't want to impose.
我刚刚问 Rufus 就是我
Proper self-driving cars in 10 years. In a closed world, yes, it will matter. Because it's this example. All the people who work at Foxconn will be out of a job. They'll be very unhappy, which will lead to instability. And Terry Gu will be very rich. Right? Now, I don't have anything against Terry Gu, but I want him to have a good life, but I want all the other people to have a good life. Now, in general, automation is good. If it's not a lot of fun making an iPhone, it's probably not a very interesting job making an iPhone all day, which is what these workers do, right? They just do the same thing again and again. So I want their jobs to be replaced with robots. I just want them to have other jobs or to have money, the resources to live. So in a good world, robots take all our jobs and we get to like read Kongzi or read Shakespeare, right? Or do meditation and become enlightened, you know? Imagine we could all meditate for 4 hours a day, right? Or read philosophy, or put on plays, or make movies, or go to the beach, right? That would be amazing. I'm really glad that I don't have to do the washing up anymore, that we have a dishwasher, right? It's good. What I want though, is I want that to be evenly distributed roughly, and I also want true innovation. Like what's worrying at the moment is that actually the closed digital economy is going to stop innovation. It's going to mean we get less automation in a weird way, because it means we won't innovate as fast, right? So what I want is I want all that automation, but let's choose open. You know, I want open robots. That's what I want. I want the open robots, right? Because we're going to have a digital economy. There's no stopping it. There's no stopping the robots, probably, right? I don't want to. I mean, I don't want like them to take over the world and kill us all off. But I want a robot to manufacture an iPhone, just as like I want a dishwasher that now washes the dishes. But I want it to be one that's open, so that it's accountable, so that we get more jobs for people rather than less jobs, if you like. I mean, in a perfect world, or at least it means more money, I should say, more money for everyone. I want more innovation. I want a fairer deal. So I want open robots. So yes, I do think robots will take all the jobs in the next 100 years. Great. If it means that we all get to share in that open digital economy. And that's why we want this model. That's why we want the open model, with the open robots. And I would say to you, the last thing you said, you asked me what's changing. Let's talk about open data, like government does open data.
Yeah.
Maybe one of you, or someone you know, will one day be advising the president of China, right? Maybe one of you will be in government. Maybe one of you will be running a business. You know, and what's important is that people, they should, at the moment, people are not thinking about this. They don't see the connection between the closed digital economy and instability. No country wants instability. But that's what you have in the US right now. You have a country divided and angry and upset and dangerous even. People are fighting each other. And at the moment, people think of digital technology as about innovation. It's just about like, let's innovate more. And my point is that the question of open close goes everywhere into the economy. And so if you're the president of China one day, or you're advising the president, this is an issue to start bringing up. And most importantly, the last thing I leave you with, costless copying. It's wonderful. It's also wonderful. Basically, it's magic. The last thing I want you to remember today is we have this magic. We have this incredible opportunity for everybody to have more. That's never been possible before. That I could give everyone a copy with the click of my fingers, and we can do that. And that's why government don't realize that. If you go and talk today to a high-level government official and say, what's different about digital technology? They'll say, oh, it's very fast innovation, right? They won't say costless copying, and they won't understand what it means. And we need to change that. You guys need to go change that. You need to talk to your friends. You need to leave today and say, I heard about an idea that's going to change the 21st century, and here's why. Because when people start to understand it, things will change. Thank you.
Yes, yes. If you have more questions, you can come and later after the seminar, you can come and ask Rufus. So thank you all for participating in this event today, and especially Rufus. And welcome to China, and welcome to Open Mind Club again.
Thank you.
So yes.
If anyone wants to be in contact with me, I should say this. I'm Rufus Pollock. I'm also the problem is we're going off in the
设备。